Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Adriana and this is a space where I love to share with you recipes and food that I love. Today I wanted to share with you a fruit that I have never tried before. I have eaten the end version of this fruit, but I have never actually tried it in its raw form. And that fruit is the cacao. So I'm originally from Mexico, but I'm not from the place where the cacao fruit naturally grows in. I'm from central Mexico, so I have never actually even seen the tree or even touched the fruit in my hand. And I was so excited when I received this that I just figured I might as well try this out with you and see my first impressions of it. Now, before I open the fruit, I wanted to give a little bit of a background history on it. The cacao tree is actually native to Mexico. Some of the first history recordings of the fruit being consumed date back to the Olmeca civilization. And it looks like they were just consuming the fruit, but not processing the actual bean itself. It wasn't until the Mayans that they began fermenting the bean, roasting the bean, and grinding it up into what we now know as cacao powder. And then the Aztecs consumed it as well. It looks like both civilizations just really saw this as a very special fruit. They would use it for ceremonies and for different things, but they just really thought it was a very special ingredient. Some other history books also show that the cacao tree also grows in some other areas of Central America and South America, but the civilizations there were also just using it as a fruit. So we do have the Mayans and the Aztecs to thank for the actual production of what we now know as cacao powder and chocolate. So my first impressions of the fruit is that the skin is actually really rough. It definitely feels way thicker than maybe an avocado. It actually feels really dense. It's hard. It's not a soft fruit by any means. I would say it weighs about 1.5 pounds and it's what, about 6 to 7 inches? Yeah, it feels pretty hefty. I'm going to smell it really quick. So I would say it sort of has like a pear apple smell on the outside. The closest thing that it reminds me of would be like a mamey, which is a fruit from Mexico. I'm not sure if you've ever tried it, but if you have, I would say that's the closest smell that I can think of, but it's pretty unique in smell. So let's go ahead and cut it. So from some reference videos, I saw that you're supposed to score it kind of like an avocado. Oh, it's harder than I thought it was going to be. That's a pretty thick skin, I would say. Okay. So, oh. It feels pretty thick as you start cutting it, but once you get your knife through, it actually feels like it's softer on the inside. All right, so here we go. Whoa. That looks like the inside of a bug or something. The skin on the inside feels really slimy. Ooh, that's like really soft. All right, so it looks like this is the pulp that everyone eats, but that's also the pulp that's supposed to help in fermentation later. It has a very strong smell. It smells almost molassy. I can't really describe it. To me, honestly, I just keep thinking of a mamey. So if you've had a mamey, you would definitely know what I'm talking about. It's pretty slimy. And from the research that I've done, if it's looking slimy like this and white, it means that it's like perfectly ripe and it's going to be great for fermentation. Let's go ahead and try it. You guys, this is really, really fragrant. It almost smells like flowers, like in the early spring, like blossoms almost. It also has a very lychee smell, which kind of makes sense because I guess it's sort of similar to that texture, like lychee or rambutans. It smells really, really good, but obviously it smells nothing like what cacao smells like or what chocolate smells like. Like very molassy, almost like a date. Like this spark right here, closer to the outside skin, it smells very much like a date. And then the actual pods with the fruit smell more floral, like a lychee. Oh, I'm so excited to try this. Like, I don't think you guys understand how excited I am to finally try the raw version of the cacao. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so here we go. And I'm sorry if I'm gonna be speaking with my mouth open, but I wanna tell you guys what I'm thinking as I try it. First impression is that it's very acidic. Very much like a pear, a little bit like a lychee, but it's not juicy like a lychee or a rambutan. Very, very soft. That I don't really have a reference to. Maybe like a really soft mango, like, you know, when the mango is just like perfectly ripe. There's nothing really to chew. It just kind of like starts melting in your mouth, which is very interesting. I've never had that experience in a fruit before. Yeah, almost like if you just kind of sucked on a mango piece and let it dissolve in your mouth. That's the closest thing I can describe to. It's sweet, but not overly sweet. But there's definitely sweetness to it. The first hint that I got was a little tart, like acidic tart. And now all of that is gone. It's just the sweetness of it. And I'm getting down to like that outer layer of the actual fruit, or bean, I should say. I guess I'm not sure if it's a bean or a seed. I guess a seed would be more like it because it doesn't, although I guess this is a pod. I don't know. If you guys know whether it's a bean or a seed, let me know in the description down below. I'm a little bit confused by that. And to the end of it, so basically I sucked everything out, like all of the flavor that I could. It's just the fibrous outside part of it that's left. There's really nothing else for me to taste anymore. And the flavor is gone. Whoa. Okay, so this is the actual cacao seed. So from my understanding, it looks like the Olmecas were just eating this and then disposing of the actual like cacao seed. So I know you're supposed to ferment and roast this, but I actually really want to try out the seed on its own. It actually feels a little bit like it kind of just easily came apart when I took off the skin. So I'm thinking it's probably okay for me to just chew on this. That's really delicious. It's actually, like, if you've ever purchased cacao nibs at any health food store, which I know I have, I often just add them into like smoothies and stuff. That's really what it tastes like. So I'm wondering if some cacao nibs are just completely raw and not roasted and fermented. It's really tasty. It tastes like, I guess what in my mind would be like a raw piece of chocolate that has no sugar at all whatsoever. It's really soft. It doesn't melt in your mouth because obviously there's no milk product in it to make it that, you know, fatty, but it's really easy to chew on and it just sort of dissolves. It's delicious. I like bitter things. I don't mind when, you know, chocolate has mostly cacao and very low sugar. Like, I actually really enjoy the flavor of a dark chocolate. And this is very similar to that. It is absolutely delicious. And, you know, one of the things that I sometimes notice with like cacao powder is that it sort of smells a little funky, probably because of the fermentation process. So this almost tastes like the cacao powder, but without any of the funkiness that you often get, which obviously would add to the flavor. And that's why people love the flavor of cacao, and then eventually chocolate. But this is really good. I could eat that. To my understanding, what you're supposed to do is put this in a container to ferment. I think traditionally it's used in a wooden type of container. I'm not exactly sure if I have a wooden container, so I'm probably going to be using a glass one. But once you leave it there, you ferment it, and you'll know that it's ready when basically all of the white part of it is completely gone. And then you go ahead and leave it out to dry in the sun. And once you leave it out in the sun, you will be able to work with it in roasting it. And once it's roasted, then you grind it up and you'll get cacao powder. So I am going to be saving the rest of these seeds and actually trying to ferment them myself and trying to roast them myself and grinding them up into making my own cacao powder. And I am so excited to do that. But I am just impressed by this fruit. There's nothing like I've ever tasted that's like this or even close to it. I'm also really wondering, like, when, you know, the first person that opened up this pod, like when they saw it, like what made them taste it, because it's not very appealing. Like, it's not pretty. It looks like the guts of a bug, you know? So it's a little bit weird, but it tastes delicious. And it smells delicious, which is probably why they decided to try it out the first time. So for this video, I'm just gonna end it here, but I will be documenting the process of me fermenting this. I really hope that it works out and it ferments well, and then I roast them just perfectly enough to actually work with the cacao powder. In my research, I have also found that once it's roasted, and dried out and then roasted, they use the actual like hard part of the seed, the skins that kind of come off when you're roasting them. They use that, and you can actually make a tea out of it. So I'm really excited to try that out as well. I don't think it's supposed to taste like chocolate, but regardless, I'm excited to try cacao tea. I've never in my life tried cacao tea, and I'm excited for that. So I will do my best to document every step of that process. It's going to take a couple of days, and maybe I'll come back on here and do a video of my cacao. I'm like dreaming of drinking a cup of hot cacao, just the way that the, you know, Aztecs and Mayans did. So I'm really excited, but thank you so much for joining me today on this journey of trying out raw cacao for the first time, and I'll see you soon.